You've enjoyed our reflection on the Father's heart, our Father's desire for us, for you and for me, as He reveals to us our identity, the identity in which He fashioned us and molded us and intended us to have, the way that He loves us and invites us to communicate to Him with such great intimacy that He will provide for us all that we need. As we continue to reflect on the Father, tonight I want to reflect on what does the Father rejoice in? What does He celebrate over? Certainly we can name a bunch of things, but in a particular passage in the Bible, which maybe many of you are familiar with, Jesus reveals to us in a story that He tells to us about our Father. He tells us particularly what God the Father rejoices and celebrates in. Let's listen in. The context of this story is the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. Jesus tells the story of a father, and that father is our Father, our Heavenly Father, and that father had two sons. The background of the story, the front end of the story, is that one of his sons wanted to leave the home. He even asked for half of the father's inheritance, all that would be coming to him when the father died. And such an insulting gesture from the son to the father, but the father abdicates and gives him his share of his inheritance. He goes off and squanders all of his money on a life of dissipation, of prostitutes, just reckless abandonment. He falls into a life of squalor. He's begging. Thinks to himself, I'm just going to go back to the house, go back to my dad. Don't even want to be called his son. I want to work for him, just so that I can have 3 meals a day maybe, and a roof over my head. Well, when the father sees him coming, he rejoices, he celebrates, and he goes and reminds the son of who he is, that he's his son. He reminds him again of his identity, his purpose, the plan that he has for him. Throws a big meal for him, and there's rejoicing. He even kills a fattened calf. There's this big celebration. There's rejoicing and celebration of the Father who longs and loves when his children are close to him, who longs and loves when he can take care of those he has created and formed for his own, you and me. He rejoices and he celebrates when we come back home to him. The part of the passage I want to celebrate with you is the back half. It's the older son's reaction and the pleading of the heart of the father. Picks up on chapter 15. This is Luke chapter 15, verse 25. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him, Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound. He became angry. And when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and pleaded with him. And he said to his father in reply, Look, all these years I served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fattened calf? He said to him, My son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice. There it is. Because your brother has died and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found. Let's just pause right there. The son's reaction probably would be like many of ours. I cannot believe I have been laboring all of my life and I don't ask for anything. I just do it out of duty. I do it out of obedience. I do it out of respect. I've never asked you for anything. And yet you never gave me even the smallest goat to celebrate with my friends, the smallest little sacrifice, the smallest something. Yet this son, you see, he doesn't even call him his brother. He says, your son. He's almost abdicated. He's almost disowned his own brother. He's written him off. This is your responsibility. This is your problem. Your son comes back and you throw this big elaborate party for what? Because you have him back. And that's exactly what the Father rejoices in. That's what the Father celebrates in. He celebrates when he gathers the scattered together, when he brings them back to himself. He celebrates when a sinner comes back to him. He celebrates when those who are lost, those who lose their way, come back to him. When they come back to him whom they belong to. Now we must celebrate and rejoice because your brother, you see, he reestablishes, he reminds the brother, this is your brother as well. It's not just my son, it's your brother. He was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found. See, this is who the Father does. He gives us life. He gives us meaning and purpose. He tells us where home is. He reminds us that we are never alone, that we don't belong to ourselves. He had to try to convince the younger son that this is something to rejoice in. My fellow Christians, I just want us to hear the heart of the Father and beg that his heart would change our heart. So often as Christians, we respond like this older son. Somehow we just don't get that God the Father is never content with just having a small group of followers. He wants everyone back into his flock. And sometimes we get disgruntled, we get nervous and anxious and worried when we have to share our pew with someone else, a visitor. We get nervous and anxious when maybe our churches might be becoming too full. We get nervous and anxious when maybe that family member, that friend who just spent their whole life wasting and squandering everything. And to think that maybe if they go to confession, if they confess their sins right before they die, that they're going to go to heaven. And all this work I've been doing up to this point, they're the same as me. If we could just for a moment listen to the heart of our Father. He tells his son, everything I have is yours. You are always with me. Can we rejoice in that we are always with the Father? And can we begin when we are with the Father to rejoice and to celebrate what he celebrates so that we can actually seek what he wants? To invite others back to the Father, to rejoice when they come back, to not hold grudges or resentment, to not hold judgment against their past, but to celebrate their present and their future. This is what the Father rejoices and celebrates. It's one of many, but it's so important. I invite you to pray with this passage, whatever speaks to you. Gospel of Luke, chapter 15. We start at 25 and we finish up there. How the Father longs to bring all his scattered back to himself. You are one of them, and you're also called to celebrate and rejoice when others come to him as well. Take 15, 20 minutes. Pray about this passage, whatever speaks to you.